Okay, I would like to show you two books. One, they are both by Grandmaster Alexander Ipatov. The title is Unconventional Approaches to Modern Chess, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 is dedicated to black, which means a kind of creative uh, early deviations um, opening repertoire for black. And volume 2 is for white. But here we can read it directly from Ipatov. It says in this original book, Grandmaster Ipatov share his chess philosophy that helped him become a top grandmaster. Contrary to the generally accepted norm, that would be to study opening theory of the main lines, he says you need to find some not so known main lines to play, because especially in the beginning of the book he says he has known many grandmasters that once you drop out of theory they are not really playing very high at that level. So the idea is you make them drop out of theory soon, and so that will give you an advantage and maybe an easy win. With that said, I would like to present you a couple of positions, games. The book, in my opinion, is for the advanced player. For advanced player, I would say a 1900, at least 2000 rated player. Why? Because it's not the typical opening repertoire that covers everything. It's an opening repertoire that says that you should have already your opening repertoire, and then there are these lines that are very interesting and that you can use to disorient the opponent and eventually win games in tournaments that are so important for you because they are maybe for norms, for titles, and so on. Okay, so let me start to put the position and let you see what we are talking about here. Okay, I will start to show you this game opening part from chapter 3, which is relative to the Scotch game, while chapter 1 and 2 they are relative to the Spanish game. And why do I show you this? Because it was a game played between Wesley So and Carlsen in 2017. Wesley So is white, he plays e4, Carlsen black, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e takes d4, and here we have knight takes d4, bishop b4, and c3. Okay. Here our Grandmaster Ipatov writes that he plays 5 bishop e7, which is probably played in the game. My exposure, he says, to this line isn't trivial. During our weekly meetups, Alejandro Ramirez, the coach of the St. Louis University Collegiate chess team, pointed my attention to this idea after I told him that I didn't want to play the main lines for the reasons stated above. And again, above he stated the following reasons. No? In the beginning he said something like this. Rare lines imply less theory, which subsequently means that one doesn't have to memorize as much as in the mainstream theory. For example, if your opponent plays fast, you can anticipate that he has likely prepared the fourth or second line shown by the engine. So can you imagine? Clearly at Grandmaster level they have a different preparation than what we have at club level. And he says, so if you understand that position well enough, you can play some other move not shown by the computer. Your opponent, likely out of book and without deep knowledge of that line, will burn some time on the clock and start making inferior decisions later on. However, sometimes you might get unlucky. Your opponent will play well, no matter how hard to try to get him out of theory. That is the risk that I'm willing to take in my games. Are you? If so, keep reading. And then also he says, this book is about the practical approach to the game of chess. It shaped me as a player, and now I would like to share my philosophy with you. My objective is to combat several generally accepted misconceptions, such as A. Only studying opening theory will make you a better player. B. One should always follow the fourth or second line shown by Komodo or Stockfish. And finally C. That in theory is equivalent to over the board. The last fallacy is especially dangerous because it implies that players will keep on making the best moves over the board, and therefore sidelines should never be played, as the opponent will always find a way to retain and convert the advantage. That is in theory. In practice, however, many players will feel like fish out of water once they end up in a position that is objectively better for them, but one that they have never analyzed. And here he says, overall, based on my experience as a chess professional, I strongly believe that the above mentioned fallacies do not hold true empirically. Okay, so with that said, let's return to this game played by Wesley So versus Carlsen in 2017. Okay. Here it says, I immediately like the idea bishop f8, b4, e7, because it makes perfect human sense. The b1 knight is now deprived of a c3 square and must often be developed to the less fortunate d2 square. Alternatively, black can retreat with the bishop to c5, which is also totally possible, but much more theoretical. And here he shows the theory. Okay? Now, the point is that he's totally right about this. The thing is, however, that the computer did maybe that thing of bishop b4, bishop e7 with this idea. And the computer always will find a refutation to that idea. But as a human beings, we don't know the refutation, and in fact, to find it over the board will take us a long time. Okay? Okay, so with that said, what did white played? That was Mr. Wesley So. Knight takes c6, okay? B takes c6, bishop d3, d6, castle, knight f6. Now, as we can see, we are at move 8, and this side is still kind of paralyzed, huh? So that idea is not bad. And of course, that idea was played by Carlsen, so imagine also to have Carlsen that plays it. So, rook e1. By the way, this book is very theoretical, so he puts a lot of lines. He tells you, look, that you must watch also this, and he tells you a lot of sidelines that can actually happen in the game, because, again, this is a kind of strange opening repertoire given to people who should understand it. And maybe we are not at that level as Mr. Ipatov, right? So maybe that's the problem. So rook e1, castle. Knight d2, finally he tries to develop this. Rook e8. Knight f3. Look how many moves took to do this, which is the same of this and this, right? Because it created this problem. So honestly, as we can see today, thanks to computer preparation, some lines that would have been absurd to be played like 100 years ago are actually with a big meaning behind. Big meaning behind, I think, right? Okay, after knight f3, knight d7, bishop f4, finally white is nearly finishing, and knight c5, obviously bishop c2. You say, why bishop c2 is very important? Because modern grandmasters learning from computers, they want to keep that bishop pair at all cost. Here Ipatov gives the following evaluation. He says the position is objectively better for white. However, black does have his own practical resources. And what are black's resources? Bishop g4. For example, this pin that is pretty nasty if you see this position for the first time in your life and don't know what the mighty computer thinks. h3, bishop h5, bishop e3, knight d7, bishop a4, c5, g4. And here he says, unpinning himself, but seriously weakening the king side. This is a typical example of a trade-off that you have to make in an over-the-board game. The computer doesn't understand that. Bishop g6. And here there is a diagram in the next column, obviously, and he plays e5. Now, in reality, Stockfish would have played bishop c6, not e5. Then, after rook b8, b4. And then white is doing well also with the complication, no? But again, you should have studied this position before, right? If you didn't, you will not find it so easily over the board, because that was found by Stockfish. That is, I don't know, 3600, and plus it's a computer 3600, not human, because also at 1 second probably beats every human, right? So e5, rook b8, bishop f4 is a dubious move. Better was b3, and again he says, you see, b3 is the perfect move, the right move, but is not what a human would play. So as we can see, these grandmasters, these modern grandmasters, work kind of very much with the computers in order to understand what to play, and they ask themselves, but would I ever play this thing instead of this thing? And they would say, yeah, I would play this, but this is not the right move. This is the wrong move. This is the right one that I would never play. Boo. So let's see what happens, okay? Rook takes b2, e takes d6, bishop takes d6, rook takes e8, queen takes e8, bishop takes d6, c takes d6, queen takes d6, and now, boom, queen e2. And imagine, at this point we are at move 23, 6 moves later, only 6, okay, 6 moves later, Carlsen wins the game. At this point, however, Ipatov gives an evaluation that black is better. I don't know if you are able to give the same evaluation or not. It would have been nice to see what happened here, that in 6 moves Wesley saw a player that, however, is probably in the top 10 also now, because this was from 2017, but also now is surely in the top 10, lost the game. And this is just to show you an example of these ideas that he has. Then there is another example that is a total game, because in part 3, which is entitled Showing Ambitions, Ipatov shows us entire games. No? And I will show you the in the next video, so it doesn't become too boring to watch one very long video.